Welcome to Eventful Endeavors, secrets to crafting the perfect celebration. If you're planning an event and looking for useful tips from industry experts, you're in the right place. So get ready to take some notes and we'll dive right in. This is Eventful Endeavors.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Eventful Endeavors. We are here today with Tatiana, who is the venue manager over at Castle Green in Pasadena, California. So we're going back to California today, talking about a venue that I've personally been at a few times. It's really cool, really unique, and I'm excited to chat with you. So thank you for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
So I always kind of like to start out the same way, which is kind of finding out your journey of how you got into this industry in general, like where you came from, how it all started, and what led you to being this venue manager at this spot.
Yeah. So years ago, my brother-in-law got married and did not hire a coordinator. Tip to everybody is hire a coordinator.
Yes.
And his mom and I ended up kind of planning and coordinating his wedding together. And we had a lot of fun doing it. And towards the end of it, she was like, "You're kind of good at this. You should probably do something in this space." And I had just graduated from college and was still kind of trying to figure out what was next. And so I connected with a coordinator and became her assistant locally here in Pasadena. So I worked at a lot of venues locally here and fell in love with it really quickly. Really enjoyed it. Ended up being her assistant and then lead on events as well. A pandemic happened. Things paused there for a moment. And then as we were coming out of kind of restrictions, I was asked to come in to the Castle Green and handle events here. And so I have been the event director here for July will be 3 years. So I have been enjoying the other side of this, which has been very different and very grateful for a very different opportunity.
This is actually interesting because we haven't, well, first of all, the get a wedding planner is everybody's piece of advice. It's been the
100%.
recurring theme that everybody has talked about. But one thing we haven't really touched on that is kind of interesting is that transition from wedding planner to venue manager. Like, what are the major differences in doing those two different jobs? Because, I mean, there's some overlap, but I know they're also very different things, especially on site the day of. So talk to me about that difference.
Yeah,
what that is.
They are. And I think every venue is different. I think the way our venue operates, I work with a client from the moment they're coming in to look at a venue to the day of.
Okay.
But day of, I do depart. I'm not here at night. I'm not great at the late nights, which is actually why I like this side a little bit better than coordination. And we have staff here instead. So the difference for me really is that it is a 9 to 5. I'm here 5 days a week, 9 to 5, versus that kind of the more constant experience when you are any type of vendor, but especially a coordinator with a client where you're spending a lot of mornings, evenings, and throughout the day in meetings with clients. Mine is a little bit more specific, and I have much more control over that, which I enjoy and appreciate.
Interesting. So, you know, when you say you do like the 9 to 5, like, because I know like if people hire a full planner, there's a lot of like, you know, vendor communication and stuff like that. Do you handle a lot of that too? Like, do all the people that come in usually have full planning, or do you deal with a lot of people who maybe are just doing like a coordinator the month of, so you kind of take on that role for a lot of their journey?
I do a little bit of both. I do have a majority of my clients, I would say, do more of a month of coordination or last 3 months. I still work with a good handful of clients a year who come in through a planner. So I'm working with a planner primarily through the process. But when I'm working with someone who's primarily doing coordination, a lot of the time until they start working with a coordinator, or until they've hired that person, I'm the only person they know who knows anything about this industry. And so I do tend to do a lot of that. And that is where I lean on that prior experience of coordinating to fill in that gap and go like, we're going to help you figure it out in the meantime.
So that seems like a lot, because I talk to a lot of wedding planners about how many events they can handle per year. Like, but doing a venue and also having clients, like, I mean, how many weddings do you guys do each year? Like, do you have a lot going on, or?
We do have a lot going on. We do. So on average, I would say, looking back through the years, it's been about 40 to 60 events a year is probably our average. We hit a highest point in 2022 of 75 events, which was a lot of our COVID postponements coming in, getting everybody rescheduled and all that.
Sure.
And so that was probably our highest level that we've done in terms of quantity. So yeah, averaging around 40 to 60, I think, on most years.
Okay. And that's a lot of communication with a lot of people. So
It's a lot of
that's a
humor.
full, a lot of
It's
humans
very
to,
special. Yeah.
yeah, that sounds great. So, so talk to me about the venue. I mean, I've obviously been there a few times. I've had the privilege of playing there. It's a beautiful spot. So talk to us about the venue and kind of the history of it and the story there. Cause it's literally like a castle in the
It's
middle of the
unique.
city. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's definitely a unique
Yeah.
property. So Castle Green was originally built in 1898. It was opened
Wow.
actually on January 16th, 1899. So this is our 125th anniversary in Pasadena. So it's a
I
big
had
year
no
for us
idea it was
here.
that old.
Yeah,
Wow.
125 years. So it was originally part of the Hotel Green, which used to be across the street. So the big structure that kind of greets you as you come into the property is a half of a bridge, which used to go across the street.
Sure.
And originally we were the annex for East Coast travelers spending their winter season in Pasadena. And this was kind of the resort town for the area. Eventually, things changed, travel changed, hotel no longer, and this became private owned condominium. So everything upstairs is actually a privately owned condo. There's 52 units upstairs. And then downstairs is our full event space. So we have a large property available. We do one event a day with clients, and they have separate spaces for ceremony, cocktail, and reception for kind of however they'd like to structure the event.
Yeah, and just because I've been there, talk to me a little about that space because you guys have that big lawn out front that's just like really pretty for the ceremony, right? Yeah.
The big lawn, the greenery. I mean, we have gotten tons of rain this week, and we have been lucky enough to get this feeding that beautiful green lawn and all that lush greenery out there. It's looking really nice.
Yeah, it's kind of cool because you get this like kind of like pretty like almost like mansion garden wedding kind of thing, and then you go inside and you're like in this like old timey. Would you call it rustic? I mean,
yeah, it's like a combination of a garden in a city.
Yeah.
Like you're so centrally located in Old Town where you can go to bars and do whatever you want all night long and enjoy restaurants all weekend with your family while still having a garden feel. And then you have this private estate feel, in my opinion, on the inside where it's completely exclusive to you and you can enjoy the whole thing as much as you want to.
Yeah, it was weird. The first time I visited it, I was just like, I'd never been there. And I was just in Pasadena, which I've been to Pasadena a million times. And it's just a city. And then I was like, where is this venue? And I was like, oh, there's this big gate. And then I was like, oh, this is here? Like, you like don't even realize you're in Pasadena. It's really cool.
Hidden treasure that way.
Yeah. So let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about, we'll come back to some venue things specific, but I do like to talk about just kind of wedding ideals overall. So from when you started planning to where you are now, what are some of the big things, especially pre-COVID, post-COVID? Like, what have you seen change? Like, what trends have come, gone, things that have changed? Anything that you can think of that's like, this is really cool. People are doing this now and they never used to, or something like that.
I think there's been so mumuch change. I think anyone you talk to that's been in this industry pre and post COVID there's been a lot of change. And I'm curious to even see in the next couple of years what settles in and what doesn't. Right. One thing I've definitely noticed is a change in guest sizes, guest counts, and noticing more intimate weddings. I feel like I've even talked to vendors who talk about before COVID there being just big, elaborate, kind of a show almost, and losing kind of what it was about almost, a little bit of that, the reason we're all here, which is two people wanting to join their lives together. And I find that coming back, and there's something really beautiful about that. Couples coming in and really emphasizing the importance of their story, the importance of their lives together, and the way that they're joining their lives and their family and friends' lives together. And that being the priority with a wedding, not just the biggest, the prettiest, the best Instagram photo. I think that's been really nice to see. And I've definitely seen a difference in that. I have to say another one I'm really loving, we're noticing a kind of new trend, and I'm not sure if it'll stick, but I'm enjoying it, is grooms being in charge of wedding planning.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you've seen this yet, but I was just chatting with my caterer, and we were talking about how many clients I have right now where I talk to groom primarily. They're spearheading. And it's nice to see. Yeah.
I can say I did a lot of the planning. I was heavily involved in the planning of my wedding. Obviously, my wife did a ton, but I was very much like, not like Groomzilla, but I had my opinions.
I think especially prior to COVID, I had couples I had brides who I almost never met groom.
Right.
I'd meet groom day of. We just never, he wasn't involved. And so it's been really nice to see that switch.
I mean, I talk to a lot of grooms being like the band, because I feel like a lot of times that's like the groom's thing. Like, you handle the band, I'll handle everything else.
Yeah.
So I find myself talking to a lot of grooms that are like, I'm just in charge of music, man. That's all I do. I can't mess it up. I'm like, okay.
Well, I always
but
talk
that's
couples
great.
too. I'm like, when they're like, that's not my strong suit, I'm like, you each have your own strong suit. That's why you're a partnership, right? You can't both be good at the same thing. So you do have to divide and conquer a little bit.
I love that. I love that you're seeing that a lot, because that's good.
Nice.
I mean, I What about like so you've probably I know you're not on site for a lot of the weddings anymore, like in the late night craziness, so you might not have all this. But what's the like but like kind of some of the stuff that's going down. So what is like the out of everything you've ever seen at a wedding, what would you say is kind of the most unique thing that you've ever seen?
Oh, could you repeat that again? You cut out.
Like what would be like the most unique thing you've ever seen? Like something that, maybe you've never seen again, or was just really specific to one couple that was like, oh, that was awesome.
I love a theme. I love to see a client take a theme and really commit. Like when they really go for it. And a couple of those that I've seen in the past couple of years I've really enjoyed. I had an incredible couple I adored working with who did an Enchanted Forest theme. This is November.
What a great venue for that too.
Enchanted Forest. Think mythical, think beautiful dark fall colors, green velvet linens, and dark beautiful flowers. Guests were wearing elven ears and costumes. There were swords. Awesome. It was so fun.
Yeah.
And they committed. And that's, I think, the beautiful thing about a really good theme is the commitment.
Was it a large guest count?
I think off the top of my head.
Because like that's my thing is like I'm like, how do you get 150 people to agree to elf ears and everything? But then if you have a smaller one, it's like
I think it's like encouraged. But here's the thing: if that's what you're planning, those are your friends, right? Like if that's who you are and you're planning that wedding, your friends already are in that with you.
I love that. That's super cool.
That was a great one. I had a wonderful Star Wars wedding last year on May the 4th, in which, in the middle of the ceremony, Darth Vader entered to try to steal the bride. He objected to the wedding, and he was stealing the bride. He then had a lightsaber battle with the groom.
Did everybody know about this, or was this like
Darth Vader was conquered, and he dragged his body away from the ceremony? Fantastic.
That's so fun. I love that kind of thing. Yeah, like it's supposed to be a memorable occasion. Like, do you have fun? Yeah. I went to a fairy wedding once. That was kind of cool. Everybody had like fairy wings on, and it was just wild. And everybody did it.
I love it. I had 2 Ren Fair weddings this year. I'm like, I can't wait. Let's do it.
I was actually going to ask, because that was the first thing I thought of, just knowing Castle Green. I was like, that's so like Renaissance-y. I was wondering if anybody had done like anything like that, because it does give that vibe to me.
When we do corporate events especially, they tend to go with like Great Gatsby, Art Deco, kind of that flapper era. They kind of go with that theme because especially the cocktail rooms are so in that. It's a very popular theme. It's a fun one.
Well, this is a great time for me to ask, because I was going to ask eventually, but so it's not just weddings. You do other stuff too, like corporates and private events, all that kind of stuff. Whoever wants to rent the space out.
Whoever wants to rent the space, if you're up for it, we're up for it too. Yeah, we do primarily weddings. I think that when you attract what you like, and I like weddings. That's what I worked in, and so I continue to. But we do all types of events. So we do a lot of corporate holiday parties, nonprofit events, things like that, to really a lot of big anniversary events. We held the Convalescent Aid Society's 100th anniversary here last fall. Big events like that are great. Yeah,
that's fun. Yeah, I love that. I want to ask my favorite question.
Okay.
This is my favorite question. I ask everybody, and I've heard some fun stories. I asked what the most unique thing you've ever seen was. So the next part of that is, what's the cringiest thing you've ever seen? Like something you're like, oh, please don't ever do this. This never works. I've seen this at a few weddings, and just it's the big no. Don't do it. Or even something that just went wrong, where it's just like, Yeah, exactly.
On like a greater advice level,
Yeah.
don't hire friends and family or your friend of a friend.
Yes.
They always drink and they always abuse your time and money.
Yes.
That's my advice. What I see go wrong the most. Oh my gosh, what is the craziest? There's so many.
Yeah.
Um,
There's a lot of interesting things we've
I
seen probably
mean,
over the years.
to be gross, we have a vomit cleanup kit on site due to
Ugh.
certain to certain guests' behavior in the past.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
don't invite your messy friends to your wedding. That would be my recommendation.
Yeah. Try to keep it classy. You know, we all dressed up for this, you know.
I know, right? It's like, let's behave ourselves. It's not a frat party. No, people are honestly pretty tame. I think that the beauty of the castle, I will say, is like it has this feeling in it that you should behave yourself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well,
overall, we're pretty
and
lucky.
yeah, I was actually going to say, and I hope it's okay I bring this up because I remember last time I worked there and as a vendor there, and this might come from people hiring their friends and people making mistakes and doing stuff, but we were like the venue gave us like a very strict, and I agree with it. They were like no drinking rule for vendors. Like actually, we had a wristband that
You
said
get
we are a
wristbanded
vendor. We
here.
are not allowed to drink. I've never seen that at a venue before,
Yeah.
and I was like, I literally said to them, I was like, what happened to make this a thing? Like, I need to know the whole
I
story.
can tell you. You want to
Who?
know?
Oh, yeah, I do want to know. Okay, I want to
That
know.
was a mean
Who
rule.
messed
And
up?
not that many that I put in place. I
Yeah.
put that one in place myself.
Who
This
messed up?
was June of 2022.
Okay.
I had a photographer I'd never worked with before again, like friend of a friend hired.
Sure.
Never worked before, didn't really know at all. Got blackout drunk. Was brought alcohol himself, and then the way he was dressed, he looked like a guest. So he would go up to the bar and order drinks for himself, and got blackout drunk at the wedding.
Ugh. Did he even get any
Working as a
photos?
photographer. And so I was like, sorry, folks, everyone gets punished by those who behave this way. And I was like, look,
Yeah.
if you, especially those who do tend to dress that way for working an event, which is fine.
Yeah.
You just got to wear a wristband so bartenders know who you
Yeah.
are.
Well, and even like us, like we're the musicians. I mean, we just look like we're just wearing a suit. We could be anybody, you know. So, I mean, I don't, you know, I respect the industry. I don't do that kind of stuff. But that does happen when you hire your friends. It does happen when you hire your friends.
It just does, and that's the reality.
It's
And the
going to
reality
happen.
is that like we wristband now, and like almost every single vendor I talk to, like yourself, who's a professional, is like, yeah, of course I'm not going to drink. I'm at work. This isn't an issue.
Yeah.
They're happy to wear the wristband to do so. You can always tell who fights it.
Yeah, I just found it funny. I was just like, I was like, yeah, sure, but I was like, I need to know why, because I've never been to a venue that did that. And I was like, somebody
that's
messed
why.
this up. It's like those signs you see where you're like, why is that sign there? Who did this? Who climbed on the bush? You know?
Someone did it. It's always every rule in the
Yeah.
contract is something someone did, right?
Yeah, and we have that too. I mean, I think any vendor I get a lot of questions about random things in our contract, and it's like, well, that's because this one time this happened, and then we were playing in 2 feet of snow, so now this is in there, you know.
There's always a
Like,
story, right? I'm always like, there's a story for
Yeah.
every line of the contract usually.
yeah. So I've talked to other people about this, is just don't hire your friends. Don't do it. And it's not even that they should drink and have a good time. They're at your wedding. They're your friends.
Totally.
So don't hire them. Just let them do that.
But they can't work your wedding. It's just
Yeah,
it's in
they
the
can't work
contract already, so it's just a
Right.
safety precaution on top of it to say
Yeah.
you've been hired for this event. We're going to hold you to the requirement.
Right. Did the bride, out of curiosity, did anything go down? I mean, were they upset? Like, were there any photos?
I don't know that they knew. We tried pretty hard to hide it from them. I was on
Right.
site for most of that event, and I worked really closely with my team and the coordinator on that one. They had a second shooter who ended up being really great, and we kind of were just
Okay.
like, you do this. Like, you go
Sure.
shoot this wedding instead. And so thankfully he kind of led the charge on that. I don't know. I did not receive an album from them or photos, so I don't know how they turned out.
That's just so odd because, the photographer especially has so much to do all day. Like even me as like the musician, like I usually set up and then I've got 2 hours to kill before I got to MC.
Totally.
Cocktail hour, I'm usually sitting around waiting, putting some music on, waiting for the thing. But like photography is like go, 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 go. Barely has time to eat and then go, 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 go. So I don't know where
Not
you
a
find the
job you
time.
can like do under the influence.
No.
It's a
You
very
have to
precise
use your eyes and stand up straight is important.
Yeah. Requires a few
Anyway,
swings.
yeah,
It's
we
like
can
a
move
little-
past
That's
that.
the reason.
Yeah, I found that very interesting, and I think it's something that I wouldn't be surprised if more venues do it. I'm surprised I've never seen it before. So
Yeah.
it was interesting. I like that, but that's you got to respect where you're at. Whatever makes the event go well.
Exactly. And it's to keep
Yeah.
my clients safe and honestly to keep vendors safe too, but
And to keep the venues. I mean, just everything. There's liability there.
absolutely. Yeah.
You can't trust everybody. People be crazy. So we've already talked a couple things here, but I was going to ask, like, what would be your number one piece of advice for a newly engaged couple? Obviously, we already covered get a planner, don't hire your friends, which are two big ones that have come up a lot. But other than that, if you were talking to even just like friends who are newly engaged, what would be the big piece of advice you would kind of like start them off with? Do this or don't do this.
Your venue is your first choice, your first big decision. It's probably one of the biggest decisions you'll make.
Mm-hmm.
And it's scary, but it'll feel right when it's supposed to be. The right venue is the right place for you. And It's the foundation to the whole thing. You unfortunately can't really make any other decisions without it. I think that combined with, if you're able to, try your best to not involve too many people too early in planning. I think it can be really hard for couples when they get all of their families or friends involved in planning in the beginning to find how they truly feel about what they want. And so I think just be cautious of that and trust yourself, trust your instincts, include them when you're ready to, but trust yourself and your partner to start that process together.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's very, very solid advice. I intentionally was like, we'll do this alone.
I always feel for the couples who come in with like both sets of parents and siblings and grandparents. And I'm like, I want to know how you feel, not how, I know your mom has an opinion, but I want you to get to decide how you feel before we take that in.
Yeah. I was actually talking yesterday to a wedding planner on this podcast, a wedding planner in Texas, and we brought it up. Like, it can be tough because parents oftentimes give money, sometimes the entirety of the money.
Yeah.
So it can be tough to let them realize, okay, but it's not your wedding, you know what I mean? But they're like, well, we paid for it, but it's still not yours. But like, okay, it's such a tough thing,
It is. It's a fine line,
so-
and I think especially when finances come into it, it's where it complicates it, of course. But if you're able to at least take the very first part and look, and then get their opinion when you have more of a final idea of what you want, it gives you a little confidence, which I think is important.
Yeah, and the venue is, you're right, it's the foundation for everything. I mean, I do agree. Like, I think we looked at, when I got married, I think I looked at 3 venues.
Okay.
And I fell in love with the first one. Like the minute I found it, I was like, I want to do it here. This is it. And then my wife was like, well, let's look at a few others. And every time I went to the other ones, I was like, nope, it's not the first one. Let's go back. And I knew, I was like, let's just sign the contract. Like, I want that. We want that. And she's like, all right, then let's do it.
Sometimes it's that easy. I tell every couple, especially if they come in first, I'm like, you can end up here, that's fine, but you can't stop here. You have to keep looking. You have to at least try a couple of. I think 3 is great. I was like 3 to 5.
3 is good. Yeah, check them out, see, and then you'll know, like, oh, that's the one I like. Because there's so many venues. You can't look at all of them. You'd be so overwhelmed.
They're all different. They're all different. They all offer different things, and you have to do the homework and see what you like and go with your gut.
Speaking of which, I want to go through a couple, just kind of, speaking of what they offer, just kind of like some almost like rapid fire questions about the venue.
Yeah.
Because we already established kind of what the vibe is, what it looks like. And also that you're right there in Old Town. So if you want an after party, it seems like it's super easy. Walk over to one of the bars. But so in terms of the actual venue, do you guys have like on-site catering, on-site bar staff? Do people bring in everything? What do you guys kind of come included with?
Yeah, so all catering is brought in by our catering partner. So Little Lily's Kitchen does all of our catering on site here. They're exclusive with us. And they are a full service caterer. So they do all of the labor, rentals, and food and beverage with clients. So clients have all of the choices in terms of rentals. They're going to hit all the staffing, all of that. We have all the furniture on site, but they're going to do all that for them with clients. And they do a custom menu. So clients actually work with the chef there.
Cool.
They build a menu together, which is super fun.
Cool. And being in a city, a lot of times people ask these questions about things like kind of in a city, like what's the parking situation? You guys have valet, you have a lot. How's that kind of work?
Great question. This is always my favorite because we were built before the car was invented. So we don't have parking on site.
I didn't even think about that.
I know. I wouldn't either. So we actually have a great public garage across the street. I believe it's I want to say 6-story garage. It's got lots and lots of parking for guests. So that's where we recommend guests park, just across the road. It's a $12 flat rate for the night. Super easy.
Yeah.
A lot of my clients do also rent the meters out front on both the front street Raymond as well as the side street, which is Dayton. And there's 13 meters available. So a lot of my couples will do that for like their parents and grandparents, all their VIPs. They want to make sure have a spot out front. They'll rent those meters from the city and then guarantee parking for those guests.
Cool. That makes sense. I didn't even think about the fact the car wasn't invented.
I know. Isn't that funny?
That is really funny. And even like when I think about it, like, sorry, I'm off track a little bit, but when like getting in there through the back gate as the vendor, I'm like, this is a very small road. This is like
because it wasn't built. It was built for probably a horse or a carriage, not even up front. So
exactly.
Who even knows what it was built for?
Exactly. What about like bridal suites or anything like that? Do the bride and groom, can they stay on site? Do they have to get a hotel nearby? What's that situation?
Yeah, so great question. We ask for hair and makeup off-site. So we have great local hotel recommendations for clients. They'll do hair and makeup there. We'd love for them to get dressed here so you don't get your dress wrinkled in the car. But we have 2 bridal suite spaces on site. So we have one that comes included in the venue fee. It's a smaller space, lots of mirrors, AC, and restroom. We just added last year a larger bridal suite option for all clients to add on if they need a little bit more room. That space has another private restroom and also has a kitchen. So it has a fridge, freezer, microwave. So if they wanted to have lunch here, it has a lot more seating for guests or attendants as well. That's been an add-on option for the past year of $500. So it's not too significant, hopefully. But it gives the option for a little bit more space for clients who have a bigger wedding party or older guests they want to accommodate to hang out with them throughout the day.
Great. And I assume, obviously, like you have that great lawn for ceremony and whatnot, but if for some reason, like we were in a situation like now where it's raining, you guys can also have plenty of room inside to move that ceremony in there and it's still beautiful and awesome, right?
Yes. We do indoor ballroom ceremonies for rain. We are way too accustomed to it with the amount of rain we had last year. We had to move our first wedding up this year indoors due to the rain. So we're well accustomed to it. We do a flip during cocktail hour so that guests come back for dinner in the ballroom space. It's super easy.
Got you. And then 2 final things. The first one is, what are there noise ordinances? Because I know you said some people live there. Like, how does that kind of work?
Yeah, so the noise ordinances are pretty straightforward. Anyone who's performed music there knows that we just don't allow subwoofers or club level bass.
Sure.
You're welcome otherwise to have live music here as well as DJs, whatever works for you. And then noise ordinance, we just ask that outdoors is 8 p.m. Indoors is end of event time. Our standard end of event time on Fridays and Saturdays is 10:30. Sunday through Thursday, it's 10 p.m. Couples can always opt to purchase overtime and go later with the music and the party. So they can go up to midnight on Fridays and Saturdays or 11 p.m. the rest of the week.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. And also, like, I think I was ready by 10 o'clock. I was like, let's go to the bar. I'm ready.
I know. That's the beauty of it. I'm like,
I was like, we're good.
Till then, and then go to the bar and enjoy an after party.
Yep, that's what we did. And then my last real question is, how far out are you guys booked? Do you have is this year like slammed? Is there still availability? Like, obviously people book weddings all over the place. I have weddings for 2 years from now. You just never know.
We'll book always for basically a year to year and a half out is where we are. So you can book as far as December 2025 in our calendar right now. This year, if you're flexible in your day of the week, we have options for you. My Saturdays are pretty much gone. Fall Saturdays are all gone. I've got a couple in December left.
Yeah.
But if you're open to Fridays and Sundays, I definitely have some options still available. And then 2025 is just starting to book. So we have lots of options on that. Definitely, if you're looking for a 2025 venue, time to start looking and booking. It's it's time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, just so everybody out there knows, if you're listening, don't be afraid of a weekday wedding. They're great.
Do it. Save your
I got
money.
married on a Sunday. I mean, I assume, like, are you guys like a lot of venues? Like, if somebody wants to get married on a Tuesday, I imagine there's like a price discount for being a Tuesday, right?
Totally. Yeah, go for it. It's cheaper. If you
all your vendors will be cheaper. Like,
everything will be cheaper. Go for it. Less people will come. It's great.
Which is good. You want that. I promise you want that.
Totally. I was hoping, I didn't get one, but I was hoping for a leap day wedding. It's a Thursday. I was hoping for a leap day one. I did not get a leap day.
I was curious if I had one. I didn't think about that. Oh, I'm out of town. So yeah, I don't have one. But we might have one somewhere.
I wanted a leap day. I thought that'd be so fun.
That would be really cool, actually. But then I guess anniversary would be hard.
Yeah, but I think that's half the fun.
That is half the fun. Like, oh, we got married. Yeah. Yeah. We celebrate our first anniversary 4 years from now. No, that would be cool. Anyway, so before we wrap this up, is there anything else you kind of want to mention? Anything else you want to tell people? Anything else about the venue that we may not have covered?
I think we covered a lot. I mean, the venue is fast in its terms of photography and what's available here. I really encourage those who are interested to really look at Instagram and look online at photos. This space is not what you'd expect or what you'd imagine is here in any way. And so I definitely think, especially looking from the outside, if you've ever driven by or looked at the gates, take a look online and see what it looks like inside, because it is a really unique space.
And that's just like I said. I mean, I had no idea when I went to visit it for the first time. I was just like, this is a gate and some bushes. And then I was like, oh, this is like here. This is really cool. So definitely visit it. And I imagine, you work 9 to 5. If people want to set up a visit, they can just get in contact with you. We'll link to all your stuff, all the socials, all the contact and everything. So, I highly recommend it. It's a really cool spot and a great location.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, I hope to make it over there again soon. And thank you for doing this. Thank you for chatting with us. We hope everybody learned something new today. And, have a great rest of your day. All right?
You too. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll talk soon. Bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Eventful Endeavors, Secrets to Crafting the Perfect Celebration. We hope to have left you with some actionable ideas for your own event. If you like the show, please subscribe and definitely leave us a review. We read every comment. So until next time, happy planning and see you soon on Eventful Endeavors.